This session is focusing on evidence-based solutions for accelerating women leaders. And our panel would be looking into the challenges and barriers that women face and the role of organizations in setting up the support systems for empowering women at institutional and individual level.
I think one thing that women often face is fear internally, fear of doing things, fear of offending, fear of physical fear, the fear of attack.
Broadly, it's around voice, it's around choice, it's around security.
What does a leader look like, feel like? What do they, how do they behave? How do they talk? Historically, that has always been male dominated and male, and has been defined by men. So placing women into those roles and into those spaces which have been defined and characterized by men. And I think changing that vocabulary, right? What are the traits of a leader, and are those all male traits, or are there other traits?
In the communities where these women live, in the trades where they are working, whether they are agriculture workers or small farmers or construction workers or domestic workers, there are always some natural leaders. In fact, there's a quote, strangely enough, from Chairman Mao, which says that in every village, in every area, in every town, there are natural leaders who exist. It is our task to find them and to develop them. And those are our grassroots leaders. So our task as the leaders in SEWA, the full-timers in SEWA, is to recognize them and to help them to build their capacities so that they can represent, so they can listen to the needs of the women, represent it, bring it to SEWA, bring it to the government, and help to actually build programs.
What are the two things that really shift the needle in terms of women's ability to exercise leadership and just change the norms? It's really been, one has been sensitization and training. That's really been one big part of it. I often say that, gender training we'll have to keep doing till kingdom come, because that's the only thing that actually, builds understanding. And the second thing is what Renana Ben was referring to a little bit about the strength of the collective. And we do have a lot of learning from India and South Asia, from SEWA, from many women's or other women's organizations, from government programs like Mahila Samakhya, on really what a collective platform can do.
And there are two or three, characteristics which are considered to be very critical. One characteristic is around building relationships with, CEOs and CXOs of other organizations or leaders of other organizations. And building relationships is very critical to success in our business. The second is, success-oriented behavior and commitment. It is a difficult job. It is long hours. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work. And hence, what is success orientation? Hardest thing which organizations find hard to do, but is critical, is educating the men, taking them along in this journey. Oftentimes, when you have women's initiatives, when you have gender initiatives, it's all about women getting together, women talking to each other, women having platforms to converse with each other, which is all very important. It is all very critical. But how do you bring men into that conversation? How do you force men to have that conversation? How do you make them feel comfortable having that conversation? I think that is also equally critical and sometimes gets left out in this whole women's initiatives.
Can't emphasize enough how strongly we feel about data and about evidence, and about companies also really should, there should be a public disclosure. There is nothing mandatory right now. On sustainability there is, but not on gender equality. But it would be good to have mandatory or at least voluntary reporting by companies on some of these things. So I do feel that that's the only way we'll be able to monitor whether those outcomes are moving. That's one way of doing it. Employee surveys is another one. I think those are some of the good practices that we have heard about.
One is to sort of say we'll hold you accountable, and there are, negative repercussions. us reflect on it. Just sit down together as a leadership and reflect on it, and let us reflect on what the numbers are telling us. I think that helps. I think the second is on all types of diversity action, placing it as a strategic imperative rather than a good to do.
One thing that does work is because we have an all women's organization, therefore there is less resistance from the families for the women to come and join and to work together. Secondly, I think the women's solidarity has really helped, because when one woman is facing problems in her home, or if she is afraid, then others come to her rescue and they actually bring her out. Do never drop out of the workforce. That's one thing I'd say. The second thing I would say would be follow your heart. That where your passion is leading you, where your work passion, is leading you, do follow that, because that is where you will put the maximum energy. And the third thing I would say was to try and get rid of your fear.
Never take a decision at your lowest point. Oftentimes, and that happens quite often, you're struggling with something, you're frustrated with your boss, you're frustrated with your work, you're frustrated with family, your child is sick. There are many, many instances when you're just frustrated and down and out. Those are exactly the wrong times to take a decision to quit or to do something different. When that moment passes, sustain yourself. And when that moment has passed, then sort of say, do I really want to quit? Do I really want to take it easy? Do I really want to move into something?
Consider yourself part of something larger, not just in terms of, drawing strength from a larger movement, but also being able to offer back, to a movement that has struggled for all these gains that many of us take for granted.